So, it's that time of the week. It's time to look at all the planks and the number of people that have done something stupid. I think this could be an all-time great story because it is, in fact, time for COP26. Everybody's gone to Glasgow. Everyone in the world. Well, almost everyone in the world. But we haven't gone. We're still here in London at the world headquarters of Common Sense because it's time now for Plank of the Week. And I'm delighted to say my two guests are frequenters, you might say, of this particular programme. But for the first time in the big studio, Emily Carver, political commentator, Kevin O'Sullivan, Talk Radio's very own 7 till 10 presenter in the evening. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
I take it you both decided not to go to Glasgow for
I was
COP26.
going to, but I couldn't get the train. It was broken down.
Well, there may be some mention of that.
There
may be some mention of that. You know, funny that a tree could actually end the possibility of anybody going anywhere. When they're trying to save the forests and everything.
And then everyone had to get onto aeroplanes, jet planes to get up.
And cars. Unbelievable.
I thought I'd stay at home and watch it.
I mean, we do have to be careful that we don't just turn this into a complete COP26 Plank of the Week special. But there will be a lot of mentions of it.
There will be.
It kind of does. But also there are other things that we need to bring into it as well. So, Emily, why don't you kick us off with your first Plank of the Week?
So this one does have something to do with COP26. But it's someone who comes up time and time again as a bit of a plank. It's the Archbishop.
The Archbishop.
The Archbishop of Canterbury, Mr. Justin Welby.
Yes.
Who is known by most as being pretty woke.
Yes. Didn't he used to work for an oil company?
Well, yes, which has come out this week. Well, it's made headlines this week because of his comments on COP26. And what has he said? He's likened, well, in a BBC interview at our national broadcaster, he's likened those leaders who don't act in the face of this climate emergency to those who didn't listen to warnings over Nazis.
Yeah, because it's very easy to compare those two things, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the Nazis had concentration camps, wiped out 6 million Jewish people, and pretty much were disgustingly cruel and awful, killing thousands of people everywhere they went.
I'll tell you what was funny about this was that Justin, in a rare moment of self-awareness, he didn't wait for the outcry that greeted his outrageous. So he left it about 3 seconds and immediately put out this unequivocal apology.
Maybe this could
before
be
anyone knew. Maybe
this could be the new way forward for public speaking. You know, make a speech and then just immediately issue an apology.
You put the apology in the speech.
Yeah, right at the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this speech.
I mean, but he also said that those leaders who don't act now will be cursed.
Cursed?
He said they'd be cursed.
Blimey, that's a bit frightening.
A voodoo archbishop. It's got
zombie dolls. Throwing holy water at people.
And he also...
Wrong religion, Justin.
He also equated inaction with genocide. So it wasn't just the Nazi comments, you know, it wasn't just the Nazi comparison. It was also, again, he said genocide, and again he said that leaders would be cursed. So he's gone a bit mad, I think. And of course, we know him from his many interjections over Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
He said that white members of his congregation need to repent their sins and so on, repent their privileges. And he also said that there needed to be a review of statues.
That's right, yeah.
He also said, what else has he said? He's always banging on about climate change as well. And meanwhile, his congregations are diminishing.
I'll tell you what,
rapidly.
I've got some time from him on this one. I think it's about time that teams of builders went into Canterbury Cathedral and started ripping it to pieces, vandalising,
also,
pulling out such. Good for justice.
Isn't there an issue as well about some of the investments that the Church of England has? You know, funds, which may or may not involve alms dealing.
Do you remember when they were huge investors in Wonga, the payday loan people?
But this is it. I mean, they don't understand seemingly the meaning of the word hypocrite, these people, do they? Because, I mean, that's been the kind of word of the week, isn't it?
But this is the problem.
Well, that's what COP26 is, a festival of ocean-going hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, I mean, no one can be squeaky clean. No one can be morally pure on this type of stuff. So I would suggest that these people sort of, tone it down a little and maybe realise that they're not perfect themselves, rather than telling us how to live our lives. But that's Justin Welby.
So what's it got to do with him? He's supposed to tend to the nation's spiritual needs. He's the head of the state religion. Why is he up there banging on about climate change? What's that got to do with him?
Has he not also said
not in his
words to the effect that the religion isn't really about God anymore?
Probably.
I mean, I think he's actually said that, where basically the Church of England is no longer necessarily driven by a religion.
Yeah. But it sounds to me that he's rather a charlatan, because clearly he puts identity politics and climate change above Christianity.
Yes.
Or it seems as though he does, and there's a lot of evidence to back up that claim. So perhaps it's time for him to, I don't know, let someone else
I wonder whether it's time for him to step aside.
Step aside.
Or step back, as Prince Andrew said. Step back. from
Have a
public
break.
duties.
It's caused an unholy row.
But this is the thing, right? I'm going to try and move smoothly through the sort of COP-related guests and planks in this one. So who's your first one?
Well, it is another COP26 one because, as I just said, the thing about COP26, it's a massive own goal. Because everyone...
Well, it's proving to be,
everyone
isn't it?
can see that it is a festival of Olympic standard hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It is hypocrisy central. We know they're all flying in by private jets. They're staying at 5-star luxury hotels. They're saving the planet one banquet and one champagne reception.
I haven't seen any menus for the banquets, but I'm assuming they're not all plant-based.
It's supposed to be mainly plant-based, but it's still very lavish and very luxurious. And ordinary people don't like using ordinary, but you know what I mean. Regular citizens of the world are looking at this carnival of vile, grotesque opulence and thinking, you know, you lot are just hypocrites. So the leading hypocrite there is, and I don't say this lightly because my God, has he got some serious competition. It's Joe Biden, the President of America, who arrived on board the least sustainable form of transport known to man, Air Force One, massive, great passenger jet with about 7 people on board, landed with a motorcade. He brought 85 cars with him. To be fair to him, when he goes on a motorcade, he only takes 20 of them with him.
Yes.
It is just astonishing.
Does that mean, because they've got to have like 3 dummy motorcades so that you never know which one he's in?
Well,
so there might be 4 different ones, all with 20 cars in.
But it's not about whether he needs them or not, right? We're either in a climate emergency or we're not.
Right.
Yeah.
If my house was on fire, I wouldn't throw, gasoline on it, would I? That's essentially what he's doing. If he believes we're in this climate emergency and our planet is burning, as he says, or as he listens to non-stop, or well, when he's not asleep, that is, we either are or we aren't.
Yeah.
So,
but how can they all be, but particularly Biden, how can they be so self-unaware of the spectacle they're making of themselves? To be in a climate change conference, you've got to worry about the amount of carbon emissions we put up there into the atmosphere. We're ruining our planet. Just going to get into my 20-car motorcade. It's just
And also, presumably, there must be at least 3 or 4 versions of Air Force One to have brought all that stuff over. So he's probably flying not in one plane, but in an entire squadron.
Yeah. I mean, my campaign to lower awareness about climate change isn't going very well. I'll admit that.
I can see that.
But I'll tell you what is going well for those of us who are sick to death of this 24/7 lecturing, preaching we get about this one obsessional topic. Other obsessions are available. COP26, I think, will emerge as a triumph because the people are sick to death of what they're seeing up there. So all these virtue-signalling world leaders are scoring a massive own goal because their favourite topic is going to get consigned into the scrap heap of history as far as we're concerned.
The point about all of it is, and I'm sort of 2 minds about whether I nominate COP26 as an entity for a plank or whether we just continue with, individual people, because in a way it's good to name individuals, but it's also, there's so many of them, we can't get them all in. I mean, Greta Thunberg, I don't know whether you saw her performance yesterday.
She's coming up later.
But she was rallying the troops and singing. I don't know if you're going to be mentioning that, are you? You are, so I'll leave you to
using the foulest of language.
Foulest of language. I mean, I thought she was a young schoolgirl. Apparently not anymore.
Yeah, why is everyone enthralled?
She's a great sage.
Well, we're going to come back to her.
We're talking about a woman who never went to school and now hasn't got a job.
Right.
Why are we listening to her?
Well, because people keep giving her money for no apparent reason.
The problem is the sympathetic media will ignore the fact Biden was having these, 85 car brigade, and then also the private jets and so on, because it's all about what he says.
Yeah, but it's the Emma Thompson defence, isn't it? But of course, it's not right that I'm on a plane, but I have to be here because I have to get the message across. And also, the message is rubbish, isn't it? Because the message now has changed every single day that COP26 has been on. The message first of all was, "This is our last chance," and then they go, "It's never too late." Well, it can't be both, can it? It's either your last chance or it's never too late. And so it could be your last chance next time.
And why is it?
But also all they're going to do is make some ridiculous statement of intent. That's it.
I know, but
That's
why is it that, I mean, I think a lot of people can see it, but not enough people can see the utter comedic absurdity of a bunch of virtue-signalling idiot world leaders standing there making pledges about 2050, 2060, 2070, when they'll all be dead and their successors will ignore the empty promises of the past. Nothing that is pledged at COP26 is going to happen.
No.
It's obvious.
So why bother?
Exactly.
Is the question.
It's just the world. It is the epicenter of world lunacy. It really is.
I agree, but I do think that something needs to be done to help the planet. That's for sure. Even if I think that what we do in this country won't have any impact on global temperatures.
That we can have any effect on the planet because the planet.
But I mean, in terms of deforestation, right? Today there was some kind of announcement on deforestation. It'd be good if we didn't chop down so many trees, right?
You're
an environmentalist.
Why would it be good?
I'm not. I am not an environmentalist.
You're an animal lover.
Yes,
why would it be good? Why? Why would it be good?
I don't know. It's good for ecosystems. It's good for animals. It's good for
but you chop trees
air
down
pollution.
supposedly in order to use them because I learned this last week. They're sustainable, right? And so apparently
they grow
again. So if you chop them
they're
down,
a great alternative to concrete. Mike,
I mean, do you know? I don't know if you have much of a garden or whether you're much of a gardener, but you have to trim your roses every year in order to let them grow the next year. If you don't cut trees down, what happens? Do they just keep growing? Do they stop growing?
Also, Emily, the big
question... They take
question...
100 years to grow.
Yeah, they do.
There's no scientific proof that we, mankind, are responsible for climate change. We no doubt we've contributed, but the extent of our contribution is not defined. No one knows, and yet we are supposed to believe this orthodoxy that it's all down to us.
It is arrogant, but I do think that...
But it's probably not true.
What annoys me is the self-flagellation on the part of countries like our own who have done so much to decarbonise, and yet you've got, we don't seem to get our heads around the fact that anything we do will have absolutely no impact on the global temperature when emissions are going up.
This is the other thing that sort of sensible people can see, but all of these crazy climate activists can't see, that if we've been doing quite well and we have been reducing emissions, then why are the greenhouse gases at the highest level they've ever been since 4 billion years ago?
Yeah.
So either we're not having any effect at all, or maybe the greenhouse gases will always be there.
Do you know who I blame?
Because I don't think it was man that caused the problems in 4 billion years ago.
It was the Chinese.
We weren't here.
It was the Chinese.
Unless they got a time machine.
But why doesn't Greta Thunberg... Oh, we're going to talk about her later. Why doesn't she focus her fury on China?
Yeah.
Because she only hates the West.
Well, exactly, A lot of it is politics, and they want system change, not climate change.
When you hear people like Ed Miliband talking about, we want to make sure that people can make better choices about what they eat.
There's been a little bit too much of Ed Miliband.
How about you make a bit of a better choice the next time somebody offers you a bacon sarnie?
I thought he was finished, Ed, but he's been popping up left, right, centre.
Also, every time he gets interviewed, I saw him interviewed by Mar this weekend, right? He wasn't asked, don't you think you actually bear a bit of responsibility here? Because you were the Environmental Secretary of State when Gordon Brown was in charge, and you were the one that told everybody to drive a diesel car. Don't you think you bear some responsibility for this? I mean, that's the question I would ask him. Nobody's asked him. They don't bother. Journalism is officially dead in this country.
How much money has that decision cost British people?
And what about British
diesel cars
British car companies? So what about British car companies?
Yeah, and the companies, the businesses, the individuals. Absolutely shocking.
I know. So I think I'm sold on it. I think I'm going to go with COP26 as a single utter plank. But you can still have all the other ones around it. I think and we're still going to have plenty of other people who are not basically part of the COP26, but have done things related to COP26. And one of the things that I find extraordinary is the way that it's being covered by everyone practically, apart from Talk Radio. They're all over it like as if it's all the greatest thing ever.
The last chance.
I can only assume that all of these TV people think, oh, we better get in on this because we might win an award, for coverage of the climate crisis.
It's very strange. I was on a COP26 political panel special on a different radio station, and it was total consensus.
Yeah.
I was the only one who literally said anything that had any realism in it at all.
Right.
You had a Green peer who was saying... Were you dismissed
as an idiot?
Well, I got my point across very eloquently.
Wasn't that Mad Jenny woman, was it?
No.
It wasn't. Mad Green peer.
No, it wasn't. But it's sort of a mass psychosis, a mass hysteria.
It is.
The hysteria and the kind of false orthodoxy that is being imposed on us, and you're not allowed to question, is that all of global warming, the temperatures going up, are man-made. It's all man-made. And there's no evidence to prove that. The chances are this is just cyclical. The climate does change on this planet. That's the way it goes. We, I'm sure, have contributed in some way, but just how much, no one knows. So if we stop everything, we go back and start going around on horses and carts and live in huts,
but also,
it won't make any difference, the chances are.
Also, fewer people are actually dying of natural disasters now. If we are going to have more droughts and we are going to have more floods, why don't we concentrate on adapting and maybe making flood defences a little better, rather than endlessly trying to cut emissions in this country? I mean, wouldn't that be the better, more realistic approach that would actually save lives?
I mean, you know, on an absolute factual level, there's no point in anything we do in this country. We produce 1% of the world's pollution. So if we literally went back to living in mud huts and riding horses, we would not make a blind bit of difference.
But it's on moral leadership.
Yeah, moral leadership.
You'd feel better, though.
Xi Jinping over in Beijing. Wait a minute. Have you seen what the Brits are doing? I feel embarrassed. I think I'll completely change my coal fuel power.
But you know what the Greens are doing?
Rubbish.
The Greens are defending China. They're defending China. They say, oh, you know, it doesn't matter that he hasn't come, the president, because he sent some delegates. And, you know, they're really going to try their best to reduce emissions. They've literally said their economy comes first, and it always will do.
They've just announced...
And their strategic priorities will come first. So, I mean...
They've got 1,082 coal-fuelled power stations.
Yeah.
They're already building 185 new ones, and 2 weeks ago they announced they might be building another 300.
Yeah.
And also they're also drilling for oil and coal, more coal.
Yeah.
And gas.
I think that was my favourite one of all, was Saudi Arabia saying we're going to be getting net zero in 2060. And you go, really?
Yeah.
Are you?
Was it India 2070?
Sure? Yeah, come on. Come on, guys.
Take your 2050, 60, 70, take your pick.
But their other line of attack is that even if we can't make a difference in this country, we have to do it anyway because of history, because we started the Industrial Revolution, because we have to pay reparations. It's like, well, okay.
Apparently the Industrial Revolution was apparently a bad thing.
I know, exactly. Now. Since when?
Because Boris says the steam engine was a horror that we should never
kind of allowed you to get to COP, didn't it, love?
It's just crazy.
All right, so who's your second one then?
Okay, my second one is Sussex University.
Thank God, it's away from COP26.
Absolutely nothing to do with COP26, although it does have something to do with the current hysteria in our society, I guess, and in our universities. If I just go to my notes here, this is Professor Kathleen Stock. Well, this refers to the story of Professor Kathleen Stock, who essentially... Out of stock. She is out of stock now at Sussex University. She was essentially forced to resign from her position at Sussex University because essentially the mob decided that she wasn't fit to be an academic because of her views on sex and gender. Yeah. Now, this is a woman who has views that I suspect the vast, vast majority of people in this country, indeed the world, would agree on. She published a book that gender identity is more socially significant than biologically, questioning the idea that gender identity is more socially significant than biological sex. She questioned whether trans women should be able to use female-only changing rooms. She questions whether they should be allowed to compete in female sports. I think these are questions that people regularly ask on talk radio.
They do.
Yet somehow in our universities, students and a lot of other academics can't cope with these kind of ideas. And this is This is something we knew to be true, a couple of years ago. You were allowed to say these things, right? And now suddenly this woman was hounded out of this university.
She's basically been hounded out by about 15 people who got themselves worked up, a bunch of students who mostly didn't even identify themselves, who walked around campus with masks on, and she felt genuinely terrified. Yeah. So she thought somebody was going to kill her or injure her or do something. And Sussex University, I think, are completely disgraceful.
To be fair, it's the union that didn't back her. The university did back her. But she felt she felt so.
Well, they didn't back it to the point where they had said uncategorically, this kind of intimidation must not happen.
Well,
and
they did, but no one's listening.
They said that
the university said it. But I mean, the thing about Kathleen Stock is she is not against trans rights. She is very much in favour of trans rights, but she says it has to be on the scientific basis that you cannot biologically change your sex. Yeah. And trans rights are based on that false fact. It's not, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
And that's what she says. And because she will not budge on that, that's why she's become such a hate.
Yeah, she's basically saying biological sex exists and it can't change, which we all know. Even if you transition, your chromosomes don't change.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It's just scientific fact, yet she was hounded out. And I think you're right to say that the university did stand up for her to some extent, but the statement that was put out from the Vice-Chancellor in the last couple of days was very, very weak.
Well,
he talked about how there was intolerance on campus.
But that's what I mean.
More than intolerance.
They might have made some noises about the fact that they didn't like what was happening, but they did not make her feel comfortable enough to stay in her job.
Have they fired anyone? Have they?
They said she has decided to leave the university.
Yeah, have they expelled any students? I don't know.
They said she decided to leave the university. This is with regret, and we thank her for her vital contributions to the university and the field of philosophy. They don't really.
But they've also made statements about campuses must be havens of free speech.
Oh yeah, but there's no point in saying that.
Differing opinions.
They're only saying that
well,
because the government's
they're not. I agree with
regulation.
you. They're not practicing what they preach, and the union didn't back her at all. And some of the threats that were being posted on walls and posters everywhere, I mean, amounted to criminal threats. They were criminal threats of.
Well, she certainly felt that her life could be in danger, and certainly that her she was facing some kind of physical threat. No question.
Talking to academics like Joanna Williams or Eric Kaufman or Matthew Goodwin, which I'm sure you've all spoken to. They talk about the situation on campus right now, and it is horrific for academics with their academic freedom. There just isn't academic freedom. The amount of papers that never are published because they say something that's unpolitically correct.
Yes.
I mean, I do hope that the government's interventions will work, but I'm doubtful. But
yeah, but this is, I mean, talking to people
because
who
the
are
whole
not doing
zero
enough, the
tolerance
government are not doing enough.
Right.
They keep making noises and nothing happens. This stuff goes on and on.
Yeah, but I
don't
don't think the government is the place to do that. I don't think, because, I mean, we were hearing today. Well, I don't think so.
Start arresting people.
No, I think you can't, though. The point is that the government are now talking about bringing in this act, which is going to make it possible for people to be prosecuted for causing psychological harm with the social media post. Now,
Twitter
that could be somebody complaining that you said something on Twitter, so they're going to now come and arrest you for it because they say you caused them psychological harm, which you can't possibly ever prove. So I think what they have to do here is Sussex University and others have to get together and say, look, we have to make it very clear that this kind of behaviour is intolerable. If you make any threats against anybody who works here or who is studying here, then you're out. Simple as that. You don't have to arrest people.
It's just so difficult to balance free speech, freedom of protest with the rights of academics not to be hounded.
Yeah, but freedom of protest doesn't allow you to physically intimidate people or to mentally torture them or to threaten them. I mean, that is not protest. That is criminal activity. And we've already got laws that cover that. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, it's all got a bit serious. Who's your second one?
My second nomination for Plank of the Week is the radio presenter Mike Graham.
What? What?
Who went on
You can't nominate me.
Think of why.
Hang on. This is my show. You can't nominate me.
Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to suck it up, Mike, because...
I'm not over this. We can edit this out later.
I know this is going to come as a shock to you,
but
contrary to what you said on the radio, you can't grow concrete.
Yeah, you can. You can.
He's still doing it.
You can. Did you not see the interview with Mason?
That's not concrete. That's not concrete. That's a concrete substitute.
Well, they're using it as a concrete substitute, you know.
Mike's ability to double down is second to none.
It's not concrete. You can't grow concrete.
So, you know, the thing that I find amazing, right, is all these people, and many of them on the left of the political argument, are all apparently experts in concrete. They know everything about it. They know everything you can do with it.
They know you can't grow it.
Get it. Well, you say that, but I mean, actually, philosophically speaking, it's quite a difficult case to make. And I was talking to somebody the other day about intellectual argument, and unless you can disprove something, it's not a science. And so, therefore, if you can't disprove it, then you can't prove it either. So, therefore, that's kind of where it is. But anyway, how does it make me a plank anyway? It's very entertaining. Millions of people saw it. I got myself on Have I Got News for You.
Yeah, you've done a public service, giving everyone a laugh.
Also, here's the way I look at it. I made a lot of people laugh last week. Even if they thought they were laughing at me, they keep sending me these tweets. We're laughing at you, not with you. And to which I went, I don't care. As long as you're laughing. You're not thinking about COVID. You're not burying your head in the sand.
I admire you for that.
Thank you.
But I'm a stickler for scientific facts. And you can't grow concrete.
Listen, you're just trying to hold back your sort of popularity previously lost over the course of the last several weeks with your grumpiness. I'm not going to be sacrificed on the altar of Kevin O'Sullivan's bad moods just because you're now, trailing me in the popularity stakes.
Somebody texted my show. They say, does Kevin O'Sullivan hate everything?
Yes.
And the answer to that is yes, and I hate people who pretend that concrete grows.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite open about the fact that he hates people, loves animals. I mean, that's basically Kevin O'Sullivan down to a T. He doesn't really like very many people. But I never thought you'd turn on me after what I've done for you.
I think it was a public service. It gave everyone a chance to...
That's another one of my unpleasant traits, no loyalty.
Talk about biting the hand that feeds. I mean, it's a shocking thing. Anyway, listen. Well, I can't really veto that as much as I'd like to, because you are...
It's a free speech issue.
It is a free speech and democratic show, this, so you can actually nominate, well, up to a point. I'll take it. What do you think? I mean, you don't think I'm a plank, do you?
I think you did a public service, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Well, by telling everyone that concrete grows.
Some people got to, get very angry and got to point out your stupidity.
But do you not also think that rather than highlighting my, in quotes, stupidity, because apparently I've learned something this week, apparently I'm a complete moron. I didn't know that until I was told by 15 million people on Twitter, But it doesn't make it true, right? It's like the same with the climate argument, just because 97% of people think I'm a moron doesn't make me one, does it?
No, but it makes you more likely to be one.
But here's your chance, Mike. You do not believe that concrete can grow.
Well, no, this is not my chance, because I'm not going to admit that I was wrong, because I was not wrong.
Because you're constitutionally unable to do that
about
anything.
Well, as I've said many times, I can't remember the last time I was wrong.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know whether that's an issue.
I wish I had an ounce of your confidence.
I don't know whether that's an issue of memory or simply that I've just never been wrong. But the point is that there are several levels of this, right? The thing that I found really interesting was the way that people jumped all over it as if it was something really, really important. I mean, there was a lot of important stuff that happened last week. This was the single biggest story that everybody was talking about. And when Have I Got News for You turned to the likes of Dawn Butler for her view, a woman who I would like to say probably causes a bit more harm than I do over the course of time in her political life, who has spent most of her time in the Labour Party trying to create racism where there isn't any. I think she's a far less palatable individual than me. So, I mean, I don't mind that they...
You contributed to the gayety of the nation.
I think
no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I think
but
so.
Concrete can't grow, and that makes you a plank.
It's a nice little distraction for everyone.
I think I should be congratulated roundly. In fact, I'm surprised in a way that...
likeable plank of the week.
They haven't given me a pay rise yet here, because, there were certainly some touch-and-go moments last week when not everybody thought I'd done the right thing. But anyway, listen, here we are. This is what we do. I can see the funny side of it. I wish everybody else could. People are still going on about it.
It's funny, mate.
Is Mike going to be back on breakfast anytime soon?
Well, I mean, breakfast was quite lively, I have to say. Anyway.
You got the show talked about.
Yeah, it was this time last week, funnily enough. I came in to do Plank of the Week, and I had 40,000 people had seen it, which I thought, that's all right, not bad number for a little short clip.
Like a million.
By the time we'd finished Plank of the Week, it was 1 million. Which again...
What's it now? Nearly 12, isn't it?
It's nearly 12.
It was just too easy for people.
Well, it's another 2 or 3 million on TikTok. And then there's the whole Have I Got News for You audience.
Literally all over the world, right?
It really was, yeah.
Well,
we were trending in Australia.
Look, this is... I still think you're a plank for saying that concrete grows.
You have to keep saying.
You're going to need 24-hour security soon.
But the point is, in terms of publicity, you've got global publicity, and all you need to care about in those circumstances is they spell your name right.
Yes, exactly, and they did.
So here's to you.
Thank you very much indeed. OK, well, I'm going to go with somebody who's done rather well out of his particular line of work, and that's Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, for some reason, sounds like Kermit the Frog. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when he speaks, he's like... it comes out of sort of his throat.
What's that haircut about?
He looks like a figure from a game, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He doesn't actually look human.
He looks like one of his creations.
He looks like he's been,
his virtual creation.
He's like a virtual kind of, three-dimensional gaming figure. Because he's completely smooth, right? I know he's probably...
He's had his Botox and things, hasn't he?
I guess so. I don't know.
He's quite young.
Inexplicably, he decided that he was going to change the name of his company, one of the most successful companies of all time, Facebook, which everybody knows, and he's changed it to something called Meta, right? Yeah. Which apparently in several languages doesn't make for a very good word. It's actually, I think, a swear word in some languages. It's also an anagram of meat, which I think in this day and age is not very clever. And you can imagine how much time and effort they put into changing the name of Facebook.
Yeah, but Facebook is on its way out.
It's because Facebook has become so toxic.
It's not really on its way out, though, is it? I mean, when you say Facebook's on its way out, it's a bit like saying...
Young people are on TikTok, not on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, but it is by far and away the most successful and wealthy company that has ever been set up in the history.
You've got to keep changing, adapting.
Yeah, well, that's why he's got WhatsApp, isn't it? And that's why he's got Instagram. So he wants to try and disassociate those names, I suppose, from. But by calling it Meta, that's like staying in some kind of weird hotel, isn't it?
So you're telling me, Emily, that on Facebook there are no young people? Because if so, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah,
I'm staying right there.
Yeah, Facebook is aging in its usership.
Perfect.
And Instagram is also not so used by young people now. It's all about TikTok at the moment.
But TikTok, have you got a TikTok account?
I don't post my own videos yet, but I do browse.
Only a matter of time.
Really?
You'll be dancing around with those nurses, won't you? Going like
I don't even have my 14-year-old son is on TikTok. Right.
Well, exactly.
I think that's the level. So I think you might be a bit old, without wishing in any way to
You just
cause
said your
offence.
video was on TikTok.
Yeah, my video was on TikTok, but I'm not on it. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think you should get on it.
Why?
No.
I'm too old for TikTok, but I don't mind them looking at my. I mean, Plank of the Week's on TikTok all the time. We get 1 million views on it quite regularly. But I mean, I just think that it's a different way of communicating. Facebook is a different kind of place to get information, isn't it? I mean, I use it really just to keep in touch with people I don't see.
Was it they said during the lockdowns, the NHS hospitals, doesn't seem that any of the nurses or doctors are doing any work at all. And somebody said, oh, yes, they are. Those TikTok videos won't make themselves. But going back to Meta, so this is how Zuckerberg sees the future of the company, that the future is in the metaverse.
Yeah, but
he's created this false universe where we're all going to live.
Well, this is what I was
talking about. It looks like the most depressing place I've ever seen in my life.
It's terrifying, these tech giants.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
But this is the thing, they believe, and there's no reason why he shouldn't believe it, because he's one of the wealthiest men in the entire history of the world, right? And what he said, can you imagine working there? I mean, he thinks Nick Clegg's a good idea. He's given Nick Clegg a job.
Yeah, but the power these guys have.
Yeah. But this metaverse thing, when I saw the speech that he made, and again, he stood there looking like this kind of robot, completely smooth skin, looked like he was in a gaming sort of situation.
Yeah.
And he's sounding like androids.
And he's fundamentally a big, massive dork.
He's a massive geek. He's a geek.
Yeah, super geek. Yeah.
But, he's going to make synthetic skin for robots so that they can feel objects.
And also, it's going to...
Isn't it a bit weird?
His vision of the future is that people won't want to socialise in person. They'll just all join each other in a metaverse room. So if you're having a few friends around, you don't go anywhere. You just tune into the metaverse.
Also,
and there's the. If we don't want this,
I mean, it is a sort of depressing, vile vision of the future. The metaverse is just a nightmare.
Well, no, he wants to. Here's what he wants to create. Right now, think about this. As I say, he wants to create a virtual world where people can be anybody they want, do anything they want, all from the comfort of their own home. So this is like feeding into this kind of madness.
Maybe this isn't a test.
Let's all work from home, and then don't bother actually going anywhere. I remember going to Disney World once down in Florida, and they had this section. I don't know if you've been there. They opened it up for the media back in whenever it was. And they have these different sections of this park where there are pubs and sort of restaurants, but they're all branded up as countries. And there were people there going, have you been to Italy? No, it's over there. OK. And they'd all go and they thought they'd been to Italy. Or they'd go, England's over there. Look, there's an English pub. And, this is kind of something you'd stop going anywhere.
That's it. It's the weirdest thing. I used to go there for film launches all the time when I was in the States. And I got one room in that hotel, I think it's called the Yacht Club or something. So you woke up in the morning and pulled back the curtains, because we got there in the night. Yeah. Pulled back the curtains to look at the view. And it's like, oh, look, there's St. Peter's Dome. Oh, there's the Eiffel Tower. Yeah. Oh, look, there's the Taj Mahal. And if you go, the English bit was like this pretend English pub
with a phone box,
with a phone box and a kind of pond and all these swans swimming. And I went there, and it was just sort of so depressing.
I know.
But you know what I worry about is the fact that young people don't have proper relationships anymore.
Right. Well,
they're not having sexual relations.
He's encouraging
people. We're not going to have any
people
babies like in Japan.
No, he's encouraging people to do all that virtually.
Yeah, exactly. It's messed up.
Because it's safer.
It's messed up.
Yeah.
I know, it really is. Right, we're running a bit late, so let's have your third.
Oh, OK. So my third is National Treasure. Yes. Gary Lineker.
Yes.
He must have been a plank before.
But he's been
many times.
He must have been a plank before.
He's been on the list. In fact, I think you might find that he made the Plank of the Year list last year. He's probably going to do it this year.
He made the Plank of the Year. Well, I was there for that.
Yes,
good
you'll
episode.
hopefully be there for this year's as well.
So, OK, a little bit of COP26.
Yes.
So he tweeted out to his millions of followers, what an incredibly impressive young woman Greta Thunberg is.
Yeah,
whilst politicians get all flustered about effing fish, she speaks with knowledge, passion and sagacity.
Well, I must admit, sagacity is an interesting word to use because, one, it isn't a word, but also, two, does it cover her standing in the middle of a group of people chanting, you can shove your climate crisis up your...
To the tune of she'll be coming around the mountain.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a football chant, isn't it?
I mean, what does she want? I mean, she's got all the world leaders there talking about nothing but climate change.
Exactly.
But it's not good enough for her. It makes her furious.
Yeah.
What is it she wants?
No, I know. And then Gary Lineker getting a dig at Brexit with his tweet, obviously, by saying, we're banging on about fish. It's like, well, the fish are quite important to a lot of people, Gaza.
Also,
and also
it's quite a big industry.
It's
quite a big industry.
But also the geopolitical implications of war with France probably is quite important to a lot of people. And as you said, all we've been hearing about for the last however long and for the next 2 weeks is climate change. So I think Gary should probably be a little more quiet.
Yes.
But another thing that annoyed me about him was that he did an interview with some Sunday morning live programme. I'm not sure on what channel. But yeah, he was asked about Qatar and the fact that, obviously the World Cup is there and human rights abuses, slaves and so on. Right. And he said, I don't think it's for our footballer players to, talk about or whatever.
No, of course not.
And this is coming from the same man who essentially said all players must take the knee.
Yeah.
So
also,
clearly we're supposed to talk about some
politics. Anyone who doesn't is
isn't
obviously a racist. He also seems to have missed out on the fact that the Qatari government also funds the Taliban.
Well, yes.
I mean, maybe they'll have some Taliban representation at the World Cup.
But that's a little bit too complicated for Mr. Lineker.
In the, just before the final, maybe they can sort of, stone a few women in the semicircle.
I can't stand him. And how does advertising Walker's crisps? That's what he did, right?
Well, he doesn't seem to do it anymore.
What's that got to do with, I imagine crisp manufacturing probably blasts out a few carbon emissions.
I would imagine
all he cares about is money.
Well, it's all about hypocrisy.
And what's impressive about Greta Thunberg, a girl that never went to school and now doesn't have a job? What is impressive about her?
Well, exactly. And who's now
turned into a sort of rather spoiled, rotten, kind of foul-mouthed protester.
Well, she's going through a little rebellious phase, isn't she?
Next she'll be gluing her face to the road, won't she?
Yeah, she's going through a rebellious phase.
But yes, she was outraged.
Whole life.
Yeah. She was outraged that she wasn't invited.
Yes, unbelievable. Right, so Kevin, your third.
My third is Jet McDonald.
Greatest name of the week.
Suffragette McDonald. He's a GP apparently from Bristol.
I mean, I wouldn't go to a GP called Jet, would you?
No, Dr. Jet. I mean, we assume
he's a GP.
Well, you'd be lucky to see one face to face.
He's a Bristol doctor, we're told. I mean, I suppose he could be a doctor of something.
But Bristol tells you a lot, though, because Bristol has gone completely anarchist.
He's taking a break from not seeing his patients. And getting onto his bicycle, and he's going to cycle to Glasgow with a trailer that's got a block of ice in it. And my first response to that was, well, that's going to melt by the time he gets to about Shrewsbury. But apparently every night he's going to stop off somewhere, and the people he stays with are going to give him another block of ice.
Do you know who he's staying with as well on his way?
No.
His friends in the cycling community.
Friends in the cycling community.
Just as if you didn't hate the guy enough, he's got friends in the cycling community. You know what that means?
We're going to crank up their electricity to make him more ice.
Be all these guys walking around, with the dash cams on their helmets. All right. Yeah, so, can we film some motorists?
So this dork, this dork is going to arrive, in Glasgow, presumably sometime next week. And maybe in his mind, he's got the idea that everyone's all around the city. Have you heard that Jet McDonald's arrived with his block of ice? Wow, let's get out on the streets and see him. He's just going to cycle into town.
But the sad thing is
no
that the
one's going to notice it.
One of my rather cleverer Twitterers today said, well, by the time he gets to Glasgow, we're all like wet McDonald rather than Jet McDonald.
Yeah, because of I mean, this is the most pathetic protest I've ever seen in my life.
So it's going to take him like 10 days.
What's it for?
So he's going to raise awareness of climate change at the International Conference for Climate Change.
Exactly.
I think they already kind of know.
You really don't need to...
You just know the BBC are going to be out there with a reporter being like, wow, this is so amazing what you've done. Tell us about it, Jet.
Yeah. Oh, no, wait a minute. There's Greta. Just going to ask Greta, did you enjoy your flight over to Britain? Good.
No, she'll just go, just stick it up your arse, because that's now her response to everything.
Yeah.
I'm
She
afraid.
just swears.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Awful, isn't
right,
it, woman?
I'm going to go slightly off to the side of COP26, but it's got to be Avanti trains. I mean, I must admit I have not laughed as much as I did on Sunday afternoon when I saw the news popping up that Euston Station had been closed to incoming passengers because there's too many people there because none of them can leave. And they're all at Euston trying to get to Glasgow for COP26. And Avanti trains, I mean, I know that you can have setbacks and you can have trees that fall, as they always do in autumn, on the line or on the overhead electric wires. But at the end of the day, if they had diesel trains, actually, they wouldn't need overhead electric wires and the diesel trains wouldn't be affected. They'd be able to run. The thing that I find astonishing about Avanti trains is that they couldn't get anybody around the tree. So they couldn't take anybody a different way. They started taking people to Milton Keynes and then they started bringing them back again.
But people were saying that was a sign of climate change, weren't they? That there were a few branches on the road.
Isn't it ironic? It's like, well, no, it's just autumn, actually. It happens every year. Trees fall down. Particularly, you're lucky the trains are running at all on a Sunday. Normally you get a bus service.
But aren't Avanti trains the ones who were virtue signalling and painting themselves with the pride flag across their whole trains? Do you remember that story?
Yes.
And then a number of gay people were like, hang on, I don't really want my train to be pride friendly.
No, exactly.
I just want it to arrive on time, which clearly they can't do.
No, and they can't actually manage to get anybody from point A to point B because of bad weather. And it's nothing to do with... Well, you notice everybody now calls it a weather event. It's a weather event. Well, it's not a weather event. It's autumn. When it's windy...
When you say weather event, you mean the weather?
The weather.
It's weather.
It's a weather event. It's like you need some kind of American voiceover. It's a weather event.
I think we should lower the bar on, like they name storms. I think we should really lower the bar on it and just name everything. So if there's a slight gust of wind, we'll call it Clive or something like that.
Clive.
And if there's a slight sort of sprinkle of rain, we'll call it Emily. So a slight sprinkling of rain, Emily.
Yeah.
Slight gust of wind, Clive.
Well, if we relabel all these things, we can add to the number of
considering
climate
we have
change.
More weather people now, and you can shake a stick at. I mean, literally everybody's a weatherman, stroke woman, stroke person, and we don't still have the ability to predict the weather. You and I both lived in America, right?
Yeah, but you remember the Weather Channel?
Their predictions of weather is literally to the second. If it says it's going to start raining at 11:31 over your house, it does, right?
So what we're doing wrong?
Well, I don't know. Whenever I ask them, we're British where nothing works. Whenever I ask them, they say, oh, well, it's because we're such a small island and our weather's very changeable. Well, it's not actually that changeable. And guess what? In October and November, it rains quite a lot. The leaves fall off the trees and it's windy. It's called autumn.
Apparently Britain gets the most tornadoes in the world, only they're very small.
Little tiny ones.
Apparently, yeah.
I don't think that counts, really, does it, if it's not a tornado that you can see?
Little tiny tornadoes.
Little tiny tornadoes. Oh, for God's sake. Right.
You'd be a great weatherman.
Now, we've got to go for the final carryover one, and I'm going to make it Jacinda Ardern, who was in last week.
Oh, OK.
Because of the fact that she told somebody, actually, we do want to create a two-tier society.
She thought that was a good point.
Yeah, she thought that was good, yeah?
You can create a divided society. Yes, I am.
So today she's still going to stay in the top 10. I'll tell you why, because I don't know if you've seen, there's a piece of video footage from a press conference, right, where she's outside and somebody in the background is shouting a question. And it's hard to know whether the person is a member of the public. I don't think they are. I think they're a member of the press. But she says, we're only answering questions from accredited members of the press. So would you mind please stopping asking that question? And whoever it is just keeps asking the question, because journalists tend to be quite rude. Yeah. And eventually she says, if you don't stop, I'm going to close down the press conference. And then she looks over at the accredited media, who are obviously very friendly to her, and she smiles at them and says, I think we'll just have to take this inside. So she literally shuts the press conference down.
Champion of free speech.
Champion of free speech, because the only questions that you can ask her now are from the accredited group of people.
Disaster.
So if you turned up in New Zealand and decided to go to a press conference as a bona fide journalist, you wouldn't be allowed to ask a question.
She's a disaster.
Unbelievable, right?
Well, COVID has revealed the little tiny despots we have around the world, has it
There's
not?
an awful lot of them as well. Absolutely shocking.
And they're always so-called liberals, like Jacinda.
Isn't that funny? So now we're going to find out who's going to win Plank of the Week. In the time-honoured tradition, we have to get each of your 3 nominations down to 1. So I'm slightly concerned about this, but I could rig this. I could say I'll choose Kevin's. But in the interests of democracy, I'm going to let you choose Kevin's, OK? So, your future is on the line.
I know what makes a good TV show.
Think very carefully.
I think mine is too.
Think very carefully about which way you go.
So is Emily choosing mine?
She's choosing. Give us your three.
You've got a choice between Joe Biden and his motorcade, Mike Graham and his growing concrete.
So he's already tipping the balance.
And Jet McDonald and his ice block.
Well, seeing as this is a comedy news show, I think I've got to go for number 2, Mike Graham and his growing concrete.
See, this is how they turn on you in the end. They become successful in their own right and they just don't care. All right, so I'll pick yours then. Come on, give me your 3.
Justin Welby, Sussex University over the Kathleen Stock, and Gary Lineker.
I think it's got to be Justin Welby.
Yeah.
Because even Peter Hitchens was having a go at him this week for something completely different.
Yeah.
But he's definitely been a plank this week. No question
he
about
is a
that.
plank.
OK, so far it's Justin Welby, Archbishop of Canterbury, me. Now you choose mine.
Yeah.
Mine are obviously Avanti Trains, Mark Zuckerberg and COP26.
I think we should go for the big picture because it is the story of the week and it is pathetic, COP26.
It does have to be.
COP26.
Not much COP26. Yeah, I think actually we've handled all of the different bits of it quite well. Is there anything we've missed out from COP26 that they haven't? Oh, I know the thing we missed out. My favourite thing this morning was the Israeli minister, whose name I forget, who tried to get in
a wheelchair.
Who tried to get into COP26, but she was in a wheelchair and there was no wheelchair access. I mean, can you believe that? I mean,
into COP26?
Yes. She couldn't get in. Because there was
no wheelchair access.
I mean, how can you have the most woke sort of, international conference of all time in the history of the world, but you haven't got access for people in wheelchairs?
That's quite shocking, actually.
That seems
but
extraordinary.
you won't see, people campaigning against this or making a big fuss about it.
But it has been a bit of a story today, so at least people now have seen that that's what's happened. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Right, so we now have to get it down to 1, 2, and 3.
So we've got you. We've got. No, I meant you.
You're pointing at her and saying you.
Well, I meant Emily.
That's confused me.
Stuck his little
I
finger
told you I
up.
was a moron.
You, COP26, and
Justin
Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. I don't think I'm a bigger plank than him. Or indeed, I can't be a bigger plank than COP26.
But he's been a plank forever, so you've only been a plank for a week.
I don't think it's fair if you make me number 2.
Yeah, I honestly, in that list, definitely think you are. No, you're not the plank.
I can't be bigger than COP26, surely, to God.
Personally, I think Welby is a really strong contender because he is an A-grade idiot. But I think that it has, for my mind, it has to be COP26.
I think so, because it's such a hideously hypocritical event.
It's just
the people that attend it, for sure.
Yeah.
The people.
Listen, you can make all the arguments you like and say, look, it's a very noble thing that they're trying to do. The fact that they've done it in the way that they've done it, however, is not noble. And the fact that they may not be able to do anything is also not noble.
And let's remember that these events really, really, really do make a big difference because the 25 other previous COP26s really changed the world, didn't they?
And we've spent 100 million of taxpayers' money on it just hosting it in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And we've increased Scotland's carbon footprint by an amount that you normally use up in an entire year.
To be fair, we've probably increased their GDP.
Boris said history will judge the world leaders that don't step up to the plate at COP26. Why do you think that? It hasn't judged anyone who didn't step up to the plate at the previous 25 COPs.
Yeah. No, exactly. So in that case, it's Archbishop Welby. I mean, I'll take 3rd if you'd rather put him into 2nd. I mean, I don't mind. Last chance.
I mean, I hope there's no, repercussions of this, but I think we should put Mike as 2nd.
Okay.
Second,
Listen,
second.
I'm a big boy. I can take it.
Second.
I can take it. There will be no
Second.
ramifications, I promise. Okay, so Archbishop Welby is less of a plank than I am. This comes a bit of a shock, to be honest. So I'm number 2, but the winner this week of Plank of the Week, it has to be the one and only COP26.
Yay.
Thank you to Kevin O'Sullivan and to Emily Carver. We'll see you next time.